greetings, greetings. It is I again, your king, Clifford Jefferson, a citizen of Godfrey, the fifth caliban Jew, Joe, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I have beside me, as always, my goddess, my queen, Sister Godwinson, from the house of Godwinson. I am the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, as you know, will be Jesus Christ. I have, as always, by my side, Archbishop Belmont from the house of Belmont, as well as Court Judah, Brother Murphy from the house of Murphy. We have Brother Earl Esquire Burgers, one of our soon-to-be archbishops from the respective King's Bench. And we look forward to all those who are on this panel to go on to that same standard and cause and live their fealty to the English Church. We have amongst us in that student tree is Brother Scott from the house of Scott, Brother Gray from the house of Gray, and we have Sister Walker from the house of Walker. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the English Third Temple Church of England. The English Third Temple Church of England. This is the third temple being rebuilt. This is Jerusalem, the one you spoke about in the Bible written by King James, going back to David and Solomon. This is the third temple here in present day life. In order to understand the concrete and lieu that abstract story, you must study what's being said here to you today. So I'll give my queen a couple of seconds, as well as CA and Archbishop, and then we can get in with this marvelous lesson. I digress, Queen.
Greetings, everyone. I'm just excited to start talking about this birthright citizenship.
That's it. What can you say?
Sum it up.
Archbishop.
Greetings again, everyone from the Kingdom of England Empire Albion. Just like the Queen said, you know, this lesson is going to be a beautiful one regarding birthright and citizenship. So I digress and I leave the rest of the introduction to C.A. Murphy.
Indeed, indeed. I trust all is well at the sound of my voice. We come to hear this marvelous lesson in communion with all of those at the King's Bench, Third Temple English Church of England. And we want you all to come and break bread. So we want to greet you in love and peace. I yield.
Well said, well said.
Yeah.
Brother Burgers. Brother Burgers.
I think he was muted.
It's 5 Burgers.
If he's not there, I know he's been busy. He had a long work week, so.
Okay, all right, okay. Now just only for our trustees and our officers. Okay, so once again, greetings. We're here with another part 2 of this marvelous lesson. We're definitely going to bring some clarity to all those who've been wanting clarity on regards to what was promised to you, but you didn't get yet. We have so many brothers and sisters, leaders, guiders, philosophers, theologians, etc., but no one have come to, in this day and time, to bring you some concrete information substantiated by law. Law, yeah, please hear me. I'm talking to all of them. Taj Tariq, Sonetta TV, what's his name? Sunrise Shooting SETI, House Awakening Minds. If y'all watching this video today, and if you're concerned about your birthright, you better go ask these same questions that I'm presenting to you so you can get some proper answers that you're getting from me today. Ask if those questions that you're asking in regards to birthright get answered to you today from me in the King's Bench, then if you don't go ask those leaders what you learned from this King's Bench today and go on living a life, it's better for you to not know this than to know this and not follow it. I'm telling you, you might as well change the channel. Change the channel, because your remedy is here. Because if you don't honor me in front of my father and my mother, which is England and Scotland, then I won't honor them I won't honor you in front of them. Believe me, it's our time. This is the resurrection. You're in the resurrection right now. These are the last days and times. Look at the state of the world is in. War, famine, disease, rumors of wars. It's happening today. We know who we are. The question is, do you? birthright citizenship. I need a little participation from the King's Bench and the studentry, and I'm going to start with Sister Walker. Okay, yes, Sister Queen is going to read. Sorry about this, Sister Walker.
Birthright citizenship in the United States is United States citizenship acquired by a person automatically by operation of law.
Read that part again.
Birthright citizenship in the United States is United States citizenship acquired by a person automatically by operation of law. This takes place in two situations: by virtue of the person's birth within the United States territory, or because one or both of their parents is or was a U.S. citizen. Birthright citizenship contrasts with citizenship acquired in other ways, for example, by naturalization.
Okay, now one thing about the King's Bench, we don't have to read a whole bunch of stuff to get clarity in what it is we're trying to understand. Now, people have to, well, why using Wikipedia? Wikipedia is like baby food. You know what I'm saying? You have to be a baby to understand this. All right, so it said here, if you understand, you cannot be a citizen of the United States until you become a citizen of the states. Everybody agree?
Agree.
Unless you're a naturalized citizen.
Mhm.
You could not have citizenship of the United States until you have citizenship of the state, because you're not born in the territory, i.e. the landmass of the United States. It's a particular state.
Mm-hmm.
And you got over 50-some states in the territory that they now call America.
Mhm.
All right. So if you call yourself a citizen of the United States, then you definitely lost your birthright. Because they're not even dealing with citizenship from on the state level. They're dealing with citizenship from the United States status. And that didn't come until 1790. All right. That didn't come until 1790. So that means that if you're associating your citizenship with the United States, you got a real problem. And this is what Dred Scott's problem. How? Because his citizenship didn't come until the 14th Amendment, after slavery was ended in 1865, which declares citizenship. It didn't say birthright though, did it?
Mm-hmm.
It just said citizenship clause, because he didn't have no birthright. Let's get into a little further understanding of that. Start the next sentence, Queen.
Birthright citizenship is guaranteed to most people born on U.S. territory by the first part of a citizenship clause introduced by the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, adopted July 9, 1868, which states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
Okay, now this is not the states telling you you're a citizen. This is the United States telling you you're a citizen, not just of the United States, but the states themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the United States is setting the tone for citizenship for those born in the state, when it's supposed to be the other way around. You follow? Because you're not born in the United States. You were born in a particular state. But now you hear they're talking about citizenship as declared for any person in the United States. It's the same for your citizenship in the states, right? And then the next one you're going to hear is talking about Dred Scott. But we're going to go there yet. Let me see this, Quinn. Now it says the states as well. It says are citizens of the United States and the states wherein they reside. Now that's strange.
Mhm.
Let's see why this is strange. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Read that, Queen.
2019 New Jersey Revised Statutes, Title I, Acts laws and statutes, section 1:1 through 2. Words and phrases defined. Words and phrases defined, unless it be otherwise expressly provided, or there is something in the subject or context repugnant to such construction, the following words and phrases, when used in any statute and in the revised statutes, shall have the meaning herein given to them.
Okay, so anytime you read the statute in regards to reference of law, because there's no reference of law in the statute, because we know statutes are determined from legislation. Legislation is derived from the Constitution. So if there is no word defined in the statute relative to legislation, which it was coded from pursuant to the Constitution, then that statute is an ill-defined statute that makes it suspect to judicial review, right? You have to review a statute that's not clear, especially if it don't come uniform with the legislation and the Constitution. Now we're talking about persons as defined by we're reading in regards to citizenship in the United States as well as the states. So now we're reading the state statute because we're in the state of New Jersey, me and the Queen. Y'all are in your respective states. So when you get off this platform, go look up the definition of words and phrases in regards to persons in your statute and see what the definition is, because that's what we're going to do here in New Jersey. Okay? Because we know New Jersey is the headquarters or the seat of our government of the English Third Temple Church. And we want to make sure that when you define the term person in regards to citizenship here in New Jersey, you better make reference to natural people. Let's see if they are. Read that.
Person. The word person includes corporations, companies, associations, societies, firms, partnerships, and joint stock companies, as well as individuals, unless restricted by the context to an individual as distinguished from a corporate entity.
Stop. Read that again. Listen, y'all. Listen to what she's reading.
The word person includes corporations, companies, associations, societies, firms, partnerships, and joint stock companies, as well as individuals, unless restricted by the context to an individual as distinguished from a corporation, entity, or specifically restricted to one or some of the above enumerated synonyms, and when used to designate the owner of property, which may be the subject of an offense. Includes this state, the United States, any other state of the United States as defined infra, and any foreign country or government lawfully owning or possessing property within this state.
Ooh, everybody clap their hands. Everybody clap their hands. Now, I'm not clapping your hands from that clarity. I'm going to clap your, reason why we clapping, because I'm going to show you how your ancestors loved you so much, because they're talking about when the United States is caught up in a lawsuit in regards to the distinction of the word or phrase person, because it said, unless restricted by the context to an individual attribute from a corporate entity. Yeah. So they're letting you know that there is a distinction between an individual and an entity. Because on the United States Code, Title 1, Section 8, it says that an individual is a Homo sapien.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not synonymous with, look at the synonymous words they're talking about. He, number. Gender, see number. Census, when used in reference to the population of this state or any of the subdivisions thereof, the word census means the last federal census affecting within the state. Now we know according to the census, there's only Negro, Black, colored, Ethiopians counted, as well as white people. We're English, so you can't count us amongst the citizenship in regards to the birthright citizenship that's defined by the word person, which are corporations. He, masculine, it, a number, So you are a number. This is the statute. All right, persons, personal property include, because it said that the fine infringement of any foreign country government lawfully owning or possessing property within the state. So all these entities, corporations, joint stock companies, everything they name is owning property in the state. Even the people who've incorporated in the state are owning property. Now, what's funny about that? Let's look at this. Read that.
Classification and arrangement. The classification and arrangement of the several sections of the chapters of Title 40A have been made for the purpose of convenient reference and orderly arrangement, and therefore no implication or presumption of a legislative construction is to be drawn therefrom.
Now let's talk about the municipalities and your counties. This is your municipalities and counties. In New Jersey, we got 565 municipalities and 21 counties, but none of them are legislatively constructed. What the hell you mean they're not legislatively constructed? Because statutes are construed to the legislation, which is conformed by the Constitution. But now you're telling me that everything is done here under 1-1, because here we go. Where is that? Municipality. Municipal corporation, the word municipality and municipal corporation includes cities, towns, townships, villages, boroughs, and any municipal government by a board of commissioners or improvement commission. This is your board of freeholders.
Freeholders.
But they're not legislatively constructed. Is everybody following me?
Follow.
Follow.
Do you go to the state when you do your local when you interject with your local government? Is it the state? No. Is it your county? No. It's your municipality. You go down to your local municipality and they fit the requirement of counties because they all sit within your county. And according to what we just read here, they're not even legislatively constructed. Now you got grounds to file a lawsuit because they're owning property and they got you labeled as a corporation as well because you didn't see human being defined in that statute. So, and it says, if you don't see the definition defined for this word in any other statute other than how it's defined in this definition, it means that. So anytime you see person in any other statute and it don't define it other than how they define the 1-1-2, then it means as it said in 1-1-2. You're a corporation, partnership, association, firm, etc. And it say nothing about a religious society, did it? But you do have some religious societies as corporations. You do have them. Now I'm gonna show you the distinction between us and them. Because we're heirs of the English Stereotypical Church of England, reformed from the Church of England as a result of the dissolution that was created through the House of Lancaster and York at the time of the Tudors, through the dissolution of the English Church, which goes back to time immemorial. Because there was only one thing known as called the Church of England. And Church of England is not the church, it's the people who make up the church. So you have no citizenship, you have no birthright outside of the church because it's the church that incorporated in the county through their certificate of corporation, which is the authority and power that was left here and was dormant because it became extinct. 16:6-2 under Georgia revised statutes until those trustees under 16:1-28, which is the act to incorporate trustees for religious society in regards to property being held by way of simple corporations and corporation place thereof. And who are the corporations? Those people who classify you as persons. That's how they make money off you. Because you are a legal fiction through what they call common recovery. Common recovery is a way to turn intel estates into fee simple, which is supposed to be the former under operation of law. Because birthright citizenship transferred by way of operation of law. It didn't happen for Dred Scott, though. Why? Why did the birthright censorship, as we read here, that transferred by way of operation of law, didn't transfer by operation of law to Dred Scott? That's the question. All right? That's the question. Operation of law, it just said it. Birthright citizenship in the United States, not even talking about the states, acquired by a person ultimately by operation of law. So if by operation of law in regards to the United States, then they stole your birthright.
Exactly.
Because there was laws already prior to that operation of law put in place, which Dred Scott was a party to, which he still had no protection. Because law only comes by acts of legislation, whether de facto or de jure. In this case, it's de jure, because the origin of birthright citizenship is not based off just soil. Because he was born on the soil under the status of his mother. How we know? Let's go to the legal history, just to confirm this. We ain't got to read all this. It's the legal history. Queen.
Legal history. Throughout the history of the United States, the fundamental legal principle governing citizenship has been that birth within the United States grant U.S. citizenship. Although enslaved, persons and children, enslaved mothers, under the principle of partis sequitur ventrem, were excluded, as were married women until the middle of the 20th century. The United States did not grant citizenship after the American Civil War to all former slaves until the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which was subsequently confirmed by the 14th Amendment.
Stop right there. Okay, so it said United States did not, look at the terminology, grant. You hear that word, grant? If there's a grant, that's a conveyance of property to a grantee from a grantor. So they said that Dred Scott and all those born under the status of Pt.2 Secretary of Trim was those didn't have just sanguineous birthright, because birthright under just sanguineous is a grant given by a grantor to grantee, who are the beneficiaries of the grant, which is property under English common law. Follow? English common law. Now, under English common law, because you got admiralty and civil law, which I said was the basis for every person born within the United States of a state, because they stole you by way of making you subject to the laws of admiralty and maritime law, with the law of merchants. Because you're a product, just like Dred Scott was a product, you are a product. You are indentured, and what we call indentured servitude as apprentice. All right, but we have to go to the origin of birthright citizenship, because we know from Dred Scott's point of view, he was a slave. So all those who are talking about rights and birthrights, who go back to the time era of Dred Scott, need to go back a little bit further. Because prior to that, you was property, and property don't have no rights. The only rights you got is what's granted to you, as we just said. So it said, go ahead and read, Queen.
English common law. Birthright citizenship, as with much United States law, has its roots in English common law. Calvin's case. Calvin's case was particularly important as it established that under English common law, a person's status was vested at birth. And based upon place of birth, a person born with the king's dominion owed allegiance to the sovereign, and in turn was entitled to the king's protection. This principle did not apply to infants or wives, as the law recognized a need to protect infants and deemed wives as being a singular legal entity with their husbands under the scheme of coverture. This same principle was accepted by the United States as being ancient and fundamental, i.e., well-established common law, as stated by the Supreme Court in 1898, The 14th Amendment affirms that the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the territory in allegiance and under the protection of the country, including all children, were born of resident aliens, with the exceptions or qualifications as old as the rule itself, of children of foreign sovereigns or their ministers, or born on foreign public ships, or of enemies within and during a hostile occupation of part of our territory, and with the single additional exception of children and members of the Indian tribes owing direct allegiance to their several tribes.
That's cool. All right. So as we can see, dealing with Calvin's case, it allowed birthright citizenship to one of King James' subject in regards to the protection as a subject by the English king, which they were not English king, we might add. King James was a Scottish king. All right, he was the Scottish king. But before we go into that, let's go here real quick. Calvin's case. Okay, Brother Scott, read this.
Calvin's case, 1608.
Don't read the numbers, just read the verbiage.
Okay, case of the Postinati.
Postinati.
Postinati, okay, was a 1608 English legal decision establishing that a child born in Scotland after the union of the crowns under King James, what is that? That's the 5th?
The 6th.
The 6th. And the first in 1603, I apologize, I don't have the right glasses, was
Don't worry about
considered
it. Take your time.
under the common law to be an English subject and entitled to the benefits of English law.
Read that again.
The Pinoity was a 1608. Sorry about that. That's the courts of exchequer. Okay, case of the Pinoity was a 1608 English legal decision establishing that a child born in Scotland after the union of the crowns under King James VI and the first in 1603 was considered under the common law to be an English subject and entitled to the benefits of English law.
Okay, so in 1603, King James deemed himself as the King of England. And therefore, Calvin, his subject, had the rights of an English subject under English law. I didn't say Scottish law, it's an English law. So how are you going to attempt to get the birthright, which is operation of law, and now give it to somebody by an act that's in place called Calvin's case, which is the case law? That's an opinion. This became case law or common law for them. That's not a case law, don't supersede statutory law at all. Because we know statutory law is derived from legislation as established by the Constitution. And we know King James was a Protestant, as well as all his descendants were Anglican Protestants. And they didn't have rights as English subject because according to divinization, they received a letter patent. And a letter patent is a grant, but not for heirs and successors, for foreigners. And it said the union of crowns under King James was considered under the common law to be an English subject and entitled to the benefits of English law. First of all, let's get an idea of common law or the origin of common law first. We ain't gonna read all this stuff, just go right to the main point. Origin. Read that origin. Now we know this is a lie because they're talking about, of course, they got to talk about William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror is Rome, 1066. That deals with the whole Roman Empire through the schisms of William the Conqueror. All right, so we're going to start in the Middle Ages because the Middle Ages is called the Dark Ages, and the Dark Ages is where our story starts. All right, it's when our mind went blank. We forgot who we was. All right, read that first paragraph, Brother Scott.
Medieval English common law. In 1154, Henry II became the first Plantagenet king. Among many achievements, Henry institutionalized common law by creating a unified system of law, common to the country through incorporating and evaluating local custom to the national, ending local control and peculiarities, eliminating arbitrary remedies, and reinstating a jury system. Citizens sworn on oath to investigate reliable criminal accusations and civil claims. The jury reached its verdict through evaluating common local knowledge, not necessarily through presentation of evidence, a distinguishing factor from today's civil and criminal court system.
Okay, and we know who Henry II was? The son of Godfrey. Let's go here. I just had it. His father. Y'all see that? Father.
Count up on you.
Fifth Caliban Jew. His father was Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. So if the common law started with Henry II, the son of Godfrey, the fifth Caliban Jew, when I go to court on May 18th, 2022, this is the day when our estate was stolen by the breaking of Act and Succession by the Roman Catholic Church when he married Eleanor of Aquitaine. That's the day I go to court. His nephew, Henry III, because Henry III is the son of John, the son of Henry II. He married Eleanor of Provence of the Castile Roman Catholic branch on my birthday, January 14th. Not only that, Thomas Jefferson, through the ratification of the Treaty of Paris, was ratified on January 14th, 1784, my birthday. King George III seated as the King of Great Britain on January 14th, 1784, my birthday. Thomas Jefferson, who has my surname, said that through the ratification of the Treaty of Paris, that if they ever found out that there was not enough delegates in lieu of the Treaty of Paris, and the Treaty of Paris is not supposed to be done because the treaty means agreement. And he said that we're not making no agreement, we're just ratifying. To ratify something means to create a treaty, which would be a violation because it had to be agreed with the seal of the Kingdom of England, of Parliament. This was called the Revolutionary War. It's called the Stamp Act. But you had the ship wars started by King James. Then you had the Stamp Wars started by King George. And then you went into the land banking system established by the 13 colonies. So all these wars were created to steal our estate through shipping, through stamp, because everything had that brings up to what we call the Currency Act of 1764. The Stamp Act came in 1765. There was not supposed to be creating legal tender because the only way you can pay for any paper, etc., was with that stamp of the sale. Total contradictory to the original agreement. So that brings you back to the common law. Common law for them is opinions of judges who enrolled. Common law for us is a law that was agreed upon our forefathers in regards to the judicial review of parliamentary legislation passed by Parliament, which goes back to Henry II, the Magna Carta, the Royal Charter, which is power and authority established for the government. The charter is not the government, it just represents authority and power granted from the government, which is the Parliament of England, which follows the common law of England. And according to Smith, Alabama, there's only one, which each state adopted in their present day statutes. Y'all follow? Calvin's case. Let's keep going on. Now, in Calvin's case, in regards to the birthright citizenship adopted in America, now we know that the 14th Amendment didn't deal with birthright citizenship. It's just dealt with citizenship. It's never said anything with birthright citizenship because the first time it was adopted here by America, it goes back to Calvin's case, which was under a monarch, not presidents, not states, but colonies. Look at the language, y'all. So it says that Calvin's case, also known as Case Posternai, was a 1608 English legal decision established that a child born in Scotland, not England, after the union of the crowns, not before. Posternai means before, antenai means after. All right, so it says, through the union of the crowns of King James VI of Scotland and the first of England, when they're passed to King James by way of what we call the passing of the crown by Queen Elizabeth II. All right, Calvin case was eventually adopted by the courts of the United States, and the case played an important role in shaping the American rule of birthright citizenship via just soil, law of the soil, or citizenship by virtue of birth within the territory of a sovereign state. Now, let's look at the real facts of this case, because now people are assuming that Scottish kings, heirs, and successors who are colonies and plantations set up to enslave the English heirs and successors are assuming that the transfer or conveyance of that estate was qualified by laws passed up by those sitting in those franchises, which is a violation of law, because law is ambiguous. What law you talk about? Because according to the King's Bench and us as heirs and successors, there's only one. And that's the common law, which originated from Henry II, which is the son of Godfrey, which I am a descendant of by my surname, which is hereditary. It's through patrilineal and matrilineal descent, which we get into. All right, this is a little bit more understanding of the purpose of Calvin case in regards to foreigners versus look up citizen. Stuff we already went through for all those who first been on our podcast. Read that, Brother Scott.
Denization is an obsolete or defunct process in England and Ireland and the later Kingdom of Great Britain, the United Kingdom, and the British Empire, dating back to the 13th century, by which an alien foreigner through letters patent became a denizen, thereby obtaining certain rights otherwise normally enjoyed only by the king's or queen's subjects, including the right to hold land.
Now stop. Now we heard what a denizen was, and we're researching the fact about Calvin's case of post-9, meaning not before, but as a result of King James through the union of the crowns, passing on his rights that belonged to only English heirs. He wasn't no English heir. He assumed to be an English heir and therefore transferred the rights of English heirs to his subject as an English subject because he was sitting on the throne at that time. Y'all follow? But that was an obsolete and defunct process. How we know that? Let's go back to Calvin's case. This is how y'all supposed to research all those who build this podcast. This is what your leaders should be doing for the sake of their citizens, their members. Right here. Start there, Brother Scott.
Okay. Postinati and Antinati. The decision in Calvin's case hinged on Calvin's status as one of the Postinati, subjects born into allegiance of the Scottish King James after he had become the King of England in 1603, and on the fact that the monarch into whose allegiance he was born, the same James, in his capacity as King of Scots, was also the English king at the time of Calvin's birth, meaning that Robert Calvin, in the judgment of the court, was just as much a subject of the King of England as if he had been born in England instead of Scotland. The judges of the court cited existing statutes, including particularly a 1351 statute, De Natus Ultra Mare, which granted the benefits of subject status to foreign-born children of the king's subjects, as supporting the concept that allegiance was tied to the person of the king rather than to the kingdom itself or its laws.
So you see that? Now we know that under dispensation, you had a defunct process called citizenship by naturalization. Now we're dealing with the birthright citizenship over that was adopted from this case, Calvin's case, which still dealt with a foreign type or defunct or obsolete process called dispensation, which America adopted. So that means that all Americans are defunct or obsolete citizens.
Absolutely.
According to birthright citizenship. Why? Because the birthright citizenship under just law don't transfer by operation of law. Because when you're born here, do not make you a citizen because pursuant to just Sanguinis. It make you citizen because of the defunct process, but not because of birthright, which is transferred by way of operation of law. Which we read when we started reading the subject about birthright citizenship. It says it's by operation of law. It didn't say King James birthright granted to Brother Calvin was by operation of law. It's only because he was sitting on the seat of the English crown. And that was a defunct because he was really and truly and by blood an alien. Continue to read what it says.
Calvin's case did not extend English subject status to the Antonati, Scots born prior to 1603. They remained aliens in relation to England on the theory that King James had not yet become the King of England at the time of their birth. Attempts had been made in the English Parliament prior to Calvin's case to naturalize all of James's Scottish subjects, both born after his English ascension in 1603, the Postinati, and also those born before 1603, the Antonati. But these legislative efforts have been unsuccessful. Concerns have been expressed that extending the privileges of English subjects to all Scots would cause England to be flooded by an influx of hungry Scots. Objections were also raised that granting naturalization to all the Scots would have encouraged the legal philosophy espoused by James. Espoused by James of absolute monarchy and the divine right of kings. Even after Calvin's case, the English Parliament could have enacted a naturalization bill covering the Antonati, but it never did so.
Okay, so it says the English Parliament. Did it say Scottish Parliament? No. The Scottish didn't even want to give him that dirty still in the English crown. He did it by quoting the divine rights of king, but the divine rights of king is only based off patrilineal descent, agnatic succession, right of blood. Absolutely. This was dealing with just soil, not just Sanguinis. So let's, for the record, for all who's viewing, let's get a definition of just Sanguinis. Because according to, go ahead, Archbishop.
And after we get done, it's time for us to do part 3. Cool.
Okay, all right, let's start.